All right, today we're diving into a real heavy hitter of critical theory, Dialectic of Enlightenment by Adorno and Horkheimer. And look, this book asks a question that was terrifying back in the 20th century, and honestly, it might be even more important for us to think about today. Think about it. The whole idea behind the Enlightenment was pretty straightforward, right? Use reason to free ourselves from myth, from superstition, from the raw power of nature. So, what went wrong? How did the century that gave us incredible science, industry, and logic also give us some of the most horrific barbarism imaginable? That's the huge paradox at the heart of this whole thing. So, what's their answer? Well, it's not a simple one. They don't just point to a political party or blame capitalism. No, their argument is much more radical. They say the problem lies with the one thing we all thought was our salvation. They argue that reason itself, or at least the kind of reason the Enlightenment championed, the one obsessed with control, calculation, and dominating nature, that very reason contains the seeds of its own destruction. It didn't just fail to prevent the horror, it actually helped create it. It's a really chilling idea. And to unpack it, we're going to have to rewind way back to ancient myth. And this is where it gets fascinating. To prove their point, Adorno and Horkheimer look at a pretty unexpected figure. They say if you really want to understand the modern world, you have to start with one of its very first heroes, Odysseus. Yeah, they completely flip the script on Odysseus. He's not just some hero on an epic adventure. They see him as the blueprint for the modern individual, basically Homo economicus, the original entrepreneur. Think about it. He survives by being completely ruthless, using his brain not to find truth, but to gain an edge. He's the individual breaking away from the pack to get what he wants. And this gets to a super important idea in the book, what they call instrumental reason. This is the kind of thinking Odysseus uses. It's reason with its moral compass ripped out. It's not about asking, is this the right thing to do, or is this true? Nope, it only asks one question. Does this help me win? Your mind just becomes another tool, another instrument of power and self-mastery. The best example is the whole Cyclops story, right? He plays by the rules. Sort of. He gives the Cyclops wine as a hospitality gift, following the letter of the law. But he completely twists the spirit of it. And by telling the Cyclops his name is nobody, he's using language as a weapon of pure deception. He's obeying the contract just enough so he can break it. It's a masterclass in instrumental reason. So this faculty, this cunning, it's all about self-preservation, no matter the cost. He literally throws himself away, as the book says. He gives up his name, his identity, just to save his own skin. It's like he has to become nothing in order to survive. And here's how they connect it all back to our world. His powerlessness against the forces of nature, the sea, becomes his justification, his ideology, for exploiting everyone else. And what do we call that today in economics? We call it risk. The fact that a business might fail is used as the moral green light to make a profit, no matter who gets hurt in the process. It's the same logic. Okay, so we've seen how this instrumental reason works, but what does it do to our morality? I mean, if reason is just about power and efficiency, where do good and evil even fit in? This is where the book dives into some really dark writers, as they call them, people like the Marquis de Sade and, of course, Friedrich Nietzsche. These guys didn't pull any punches. They took the Enlightenment's logic to its brutal, terrifying conclusion. If there's no God, no objective moral truth, then the only thing left is power. I mean, listen to this quote from Nietzsche. He says, "The most damaging thing isn't vice, it's the pity of active people for the unsuccessful and the weak." He's calling out Christianity right there. He's saying that pity, the thing we think of as a core virtue, is actually a poison. It keeps the weak around and holds back the strong. This isn't just some edgy take. He was trying to completely flip our entire moral system on its head. So you have this huge clash. On one hand, you've got traditional morality, pity, compassion, all that. But on the other, you have this new, enlightened morality, which is all about stoicism, hardness, domination, power. In this new world order, feeling sorry for someone isn't just a weakness, it's a moral failing. And this is where it gets truly terrifying. Once you strip reason of any real goal or value, things like injustice, hatred, even mass destruction, they stop being evil. They just become operations. They're just tasks to be completed efficiently. The cold logic of a factory floor gets applied to human beings. Which brings us to probably the most difficult part of the book. their analysis of anti-Semitism. They don't see it as just some ugly prejudice from the fringes of society. No, they argue it's a symptom of a sickness deep within civilization itself. And they ask this incredibly sharp question: why do things like pogroms function as a ritual of civilization? It's a shocking way to frame it. It's not civilization falling apart, it's civilization performing some kind of twisted ceremony. How on earth could that be true? Well, to get their answer, you need to understand this concept they use called mimesis. Mimesis is that old ancient impulse we have to imitate nature, to feel connected to it, to lose ourselves in our surroundings. But civilization, it's all about control. It teaches us that this impulse is bad, that it's something to be repressed. We're supposed to be masters of nature, not some messy part of it. So what happens when you repress something like that? It turns toxic. Here's their three-step process. First, society teaches us to push down those natural mimetic urges. Second, we take all those things we're scared of in ourselves and we project them onto an other, some group we decide is alien. And third, society attacks that group. It's a ritual to try and destroy the parts of itself it can't stand. So in this view, anti-Semitism isn't really about Jewish people at all. It's a kind of paranoid projection. It's society lashing out at what it secretly fears in itself. It's the rage of the civilized person against the nature they've tried so hard to kill, both inside and out. All right, let's pull all these threads together. What's the final cost of this kind of progress, this drive to dominate everything? Well, according to Adorno and Horkheimer, the damage is deep and it leaves scars. They have this incredible metaphor. They say stupidity is a scar. Think about that. Every time a natural impulse is shut down instead of encouraged, it leaves a little mark. These scars build up and they make us, well, stupid. Not in a traditional sense, but in our ability to feel, to experience, to be fully alive. We become incredibly skilled at some things, but completely numb in others. And this is the final tragic twist. The project to dominate nature boomerangs back and hits us. We end up dominating ourselves. We mutilate our own connection to our bodies, to our past, to our ability to just experience things. Everything gets turned into a resource to be managed. They have a word for this: reification. It basically means turning something alive and complex into a dead thing, an object. And they say that all reification is forgetting. When we turn a forest into lumber, or an animal into meat, or a person into a statistic, we are forgetting. We forget what was lost. We forget the history. We forget there was ever another way to live. So where does that leave us? The book doesn't give us any easy outs. It was written in one of the darkest times in human history, after all. It just leaves us with this massive question. Can we reclaim reason from this obsession with domination? Is another kind of progress even possible? Or is progress always going to be tied to power?